Welcome to NCIX Tech Tips. This episode is all about the Geforce GTX Titan. Actually, it's not, but what it is about is the crown that pristine jewel of a GPU is going to be put in for NCIXPC. This is the Vesta G3 featuring the Geforce GTX Titan, an overclocked CPU, and an all-new look. Clink, clink. Now let's start with the outside of the Vesta G3. It features a Phantom 630 case in a very unique color scheme that gives it sort of a militarized feel. So it's not black, it's not white, it's something a little bit different from that. On the front, you find a clean overall look with a masked door covering all of the 5.25-inch bays, as well as a grille over the front intake. This is becoming sort of classic Phantom styling because this is actually the fourth case released in the Phantom series. When we open up the door, we reveal an SD card reader, 4 5.25-inch bays, one of which is occupied by the NZXT Hue controller. Now the 630, unlike its bigger brother the 820, doesn't include the Hue lighting by default. Hue lighting allows you to control pulsating or flashing effects, the colors of the LED lighting inside the case, as well as the intensity of the light. So it doesn't have it by default, but what it does have, is this a bow and arrow? NCIX Esther's here messing up my shoot, causing all kinds of trouble with her bow and arrow, and returning my thing here. So back to Hue lighting. Doesn't include it by default, but you can get it as an add-on upgrade. Other features of this case, which is very heavy and very robust by the way, include a built-in fan controller. So there's actually 3 settings there. 1, 2, 3. It also includes an I/O light, which we'll show you once we get around to the back. And of course, a modern, up-to-date UI with 2 USB 3.0 ports, 2 USB 2.0 ports, a headphone jack, and a microphone jack. Also on the top, you see the mesh that's going to be used for the exhaust of the dual 140mm fans that are hooked up to the water cooler that you'll find inside, which is also an NZXT creation, the Kraken X60. Now when we flip it on its side, you can see that there is a 200mm cooling fan. It's a green LED fan that goes really well with the rest of the green overall lighting scheme, as well as an illuminated side window. Moving the case further around to the back, we've got the I/O. So I/O is provided by the Asus Sabertooth motherboard, 4 USB 3.0 ports, 4 USB 2.0 ports, 2 eSATA ports, a BIOS flashback button, optical audio out, HDMI and DisplayPort out, gigabit Ethernet, and 7.1 audio out. For the video card, we have support for 3 plus 1 displays out. So that means 3 in surround with 1 auxiliary display for monitoring or doing whatever else you want. And that is all powered by the Geforce GTX Titan, of which you can put more than 1 in the system if you'd like. Last but not least, this is an Asus Phoebus gaming sound card. So instead of going for a more expensive X79 platform, this system is all about gaming, and 3770K actually outperforms most of the X79 chips in gaming applications. So the extra budget was spent on a sound card, which does provide tangible gaming benefits. The last thing I want to show you guys on the back, and this is very, very cool, is the I/O illumination. So when you press that button I showed you at the front, you actually get the back of your case to light up, so you can actually see what you're plugging things into at the back of your system. As always, we've got to open this bad boy up and have a look at what's inside. Now we want to be careful opening up the side panel because one of the NZXT FZ series fans that this entire system is equipped with is on the side panel blowing air directly onto the GPU. It's got green LED lighting just like the other fans. So there's one 140mm fan here taking some of that front intake air and directing it right at the cooler on the GPU. And then there's another one here in the back of the case. This is another 140mm fan exhausting air from the system itself. At the top, we find more cooling. So that I talked about a little bit before when we were looking at the outside of the system. This is the Kraken X60 liquid cooler. It is a dual 140mm liquid cooler, which means you have better performance than even products like the Corsair H100i, which have two 120mm fans. And this one's in sort of semi-push-pull, because there are two large diameter fans in the top of the case pulling air away from the cooler, but they're not sealed up against the radiator, so it's not as high impact as if they were directly up against it. However, there are the two included NZXT fans right here on the rad itself. There's also more lighting effects on the CPU socket that are provided by the Kraken to go along with the LED fans, as well as the NZXT Hue lighting system that is installed in this case. So you can actually see that a little bit here at the back of the case. I'm just going to shift the angle a little bit to get you guys a look at it. These strips have RGB LEDs at each one of these points here, and what those do is they actually can mix to form not only those three colors, but also any mixture of colors in between. So it makes for a very, very impressive look, and you can cycle between colors and have breathing effects and all other kinds of neat stuff like that. The motherboard is an Asus Sabertooth Z77 board, which we've used quite a few times in systems that are going for an overall sleek, subdued look. Remember, Tough Series boards also come with a 5-year warranty, so you know that they're built tough, so to speak, which is, I guess, why they're called that. For the CPU, we've got a 3770K overclocked to 4.4 gigahertz. You need lots of CPU power if you want to get all the benefit out of a powerful graphics card like a GTX Titan, so that's why this ends up being an overclocked CPU, and it also comes with high clock speed memory. So that's 2.4 gigahertz G-Skill memory that you see in there, 16 gigs of it, making this one of the highest speed, high density kits that you can get your hands on these days. The cable sleeving is actually done with NZXT extensions, so there's a Hale 80 Plus Bronze 850 watt modular power supply down here in the bottom, and you can see the cables coming out of this one actually are not sleeved. So those cables are hidden in the back, and then NZXT cable extensions with individually sleeved wires are used to run out to the main components of the system. So in this case, we've got them running to the graphics card, the motherboard, and that high-powered Zonar Phoebus sound card. So yeah, it's a 7.1 sound card, just like most other sound cards these days, but there's more to sound cards than just the number of outputs they have. So this has all of the hardware acceleration features you could possibly want, and it's Zonar, so you know it's going to have great fidelity when it comes to music and movie playback as well. And last but not least, the Geforce GTX Titan. This GK110 based, that is to say it's the same GPU as used in the supercomputer at the Oak Ridge National Labs. This GK110 based video card has one GPU, but it's the most powerful one in the world. It also has 6 gigs of graphics memory. 6 gigs. That makes it suitable for surround configurations, high-res configurations. If you manage to get your hands on a 4K TV and you wanted something that's able to really drive that resolution, you could grab a couple of Titans because they're going to have the frame buffer to spare. With SLI or Crossfire type cards, like a 690 or a 7990, if you can find one, you actually have to share the memory on the card between the two GPUs. This is a 6 gig card that actually has 6 gigs of usable memory on a single card. So a fitting centerpiece for any system, no matter how beautiful it is, including this particular one right here. In the modular storage bays of the NZXT Phantom 630, we've got dual Samsung 840 Pro 128 gig SSDs with a Seagate 3 terabyte storage drive. So you have pretty much all the blazing fast SSD space you'll need and storage overflow. If you want to upgrade the drives, however, there's a lot of different cool stuff you can do with this case, including rearranging all these bays right here and moving them around wherever you happen to need them. So the conclusion for this one's pretty simple. Is this the best value system that ever came out of the NCIXPC labs? The answer is probably no. I mean, top-tier parts are rarely the best value. However, I would make the argument that if you were going to buy components like this, if you wanted a GTX Titan, if you wanted an overclocked 3770K, this system is one of the best values out there, because it's not like there's actually a whole huge charge for the integration that goes into a system like this. There's often a lot of posts under the videos, oh, you could buy this way cheaper by not getting it pre-built. Actually, it's not true. Go and find all the components in here, actually price it out as an exercise in sort of trying new things, and you will discover that it actually costs very similarly to buying the parts standalone. Not only that, but there's extra value adds. You get a free copy of Assassin's Creed 3, you get a free copy of Borderlands 2, you get 2 free Asus t-shirts, the one I was showing before, Compromises for Losers, and another one, Control-A Pwn. So there you go. I often end these videos with what I would change, what I would upgrade to make the system slightly better, and probably the only thing I could come up with is throw another Titan in it. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you for checking out this systems edition of NCIX Tech Tips on the Vesta G3, and as always, don't forget to subscribe.